Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and this video is what are the 3 things you can do to improve your sidearm? Now, when I first got this question, I was actually hesitant to answer because throwing correctly isn't a matter of doing individual things right? There's no magic bullet that's going to get you throwing right. It's about having every single part of the throw correctly and then executing all the parts every time. That's how you throw well. However, after 1,200 or so private lessons in the last 3 years, I can identify 3 things that when a player is doing it one way and we get them doing it the other way, we see the most radical improvement. So, number 1, sidearm is a forward-facing throw. Now, this is a real common mistake, and it's understandable because when you throw a backhand, you're effectively 90 degrees from the target, pulling the disc across your body. So it's natural throwing sidearm, it's still disc golf after all, to turn 90 degrees and try to throw the disc across your body. It's incorrect because the mechanics of the sidearm and the backhand are different. They're 2 independent throws. The reason it's a forward-facing throw is that when you throw sideways, you're effectively throwing entirely with your arm, or at least mostly with your arm. Not only will you not generate the power or the accuracy with just your arm, you're also more susceptible to injuries because you're putting more strain on just a couple joints. When you face forward, you're able to throw farther because you're putting your body into it as well. It's like math. Arm plus body is greater than arm, right? You're just adding something to what you're doing here. You're going to throw farther. You're also going to reduce injuries and strain on your body because your legs, your core, other parts of your body are doing some of the work as well. Now, the question is then, how do you generate power if you're facing forward? So here's how to look at it. Imagine the lower half of your body comes up to your belt line. From here to here is a spring. Up above, the upper half of your body. But imagine a spring is all that's connecting the lower half and the upper half of your body. The way you're going to generate power, where the torque is going to come from, is by putting tension on this spring and that spring snapping back into place. Now, here's where you have to use your imagination. Imagine if you took this spring out. Take the spring out and you start just like doing this with it, right? It's not a spring when you do that. It's just a coiled up piece of metal. It's just a thing. It only becomes a spring when you take one side and you attach it to something to create resistance. Now when you go to move this object, now there's stored up energy. Now it's a spring. Now that spring can snap back into place. So the way this works as a forward-facing throw is the lower half of your body is effectively, you're going to at least attempt to remain forward. Your run-up is literally going to be that. When the lower half of your body remains forward and the upper half of the body rotates, now there's resistance between the lower half and the upper half. That's the energy. That's the stored energy in the spring. Then the lower half of the body is going to win out. It's going to snap the upper half back forward. That's where you're generating power from your core. Now, if you are insistent on turning the lower half of your body against my recommendations, it's still important to remember that when you throw, it's still a forward-facing throw, right? So no matter what, even if you turn sideways earlier than I would recommend, the throw ends this way, not this way. Number 2, you're gonna throw a ball, not a Frisbee. Now, I wouldn't even want to write that if I couldn't attach a video to the article, because without demonstrating it doesn't make any sense. Because obviously when I say Frisbee, I mean Frisbee disc. The reason I say this is that the mechanics of throwing a ball are correct. The mechanics of throwing Frisbee are incorrect when throwing a golf disc. Now, the way I like to illustrate this is imagine you're watching 2 left fielders. They're going to catch the ball. The runner's tagging from third base. They got to get the ball to the home plate in a hurry. In other words, this object in their hand, they want to leave their hand as fast as possible. Now, I'm going to demonstrate both of these. I'm not going to do a crow hop because like we just talked about, you want to face forward, but minus the crow hop, one is ball mechanics, one is Frisbee mechanics. Tell me which one's going to get the ball to home plate faster. Number 1, catch the ball, right? That's going to get the ball to home plate. Number 2, On the second one, the ball is going to dribble about to the pitcher's mound. It's going to stop, right? Now, the reason I use baseball to illustrate this is if I showed both of those and said which one is how you throw a Frisbee sidearm, or which one is the correct way to throw a Frisbee sidearm or a disc sidearm, a lot of people are going to say that's a sidearm. It's incorrect. You don't generate power this way. You generate power this way. Now, I say it's a ball. It is not a complete overhand, meaning you're not going to throw up here because obviously the disc is either going to flip upside down or it's going to roll. So you do have to lower your arm some to make it fly, but you don't lower it down here to where you lose power. You're compromising between maximum power and angle of the disc. So the final question with this then is, if you're throwing like this, how do you throw the disc at different angles? Clearly you're not going to throw an anhyzer every single time. Well, the way you do that is right here. You're going to throw the mechanics of throwing a ball, a 3/4 sidearm they call it in baseball. Bam, somewhere around 15 to 20 degrees. You want to throw a 15 degree anhyzer flat. Right here, you lean to the side 15 degrees. You want to throw this with a hyzer, a 15 degree hyzer, you're going to lean to the side 30 degrees. But either way, your arm relative to your body is a ball throw, not a Frisbee throw. This is why if you watch any good sidearmer on tour, right? You watch them throwing an approach hyzer shot, sidearm hyzer around a tree. You don't see them doing this, right? You see them doing this, right? The reason they're doing this, stand them up straight. They're throwing with the correct mechanics to throw a ball, not a Frisbee. So that's number 2. Oh, I'm sorry, I should point out, you can put the angles of a drive on a bell curve. The majority of the throws are throwing a ball. When you get to the outliers, there's going to be angles where you simply cannot lean enough. Yes, you're going to have to drop your arm down and throw that Frisbee throw. A spike hyzer, a super angled, extreme angle hyzer flip. Yeah, you're throwing a Frisbee throw, but you're also sacrificing power when you do it. So the majority of throws, 15 degree anhyzer, adjust the angle here. Outliers, get to drop or raise your arm. Number 3, you have to use your wrist. Okay, you cannot put too much wrist on the sidearm. Now again, doesn't apply to the backhand. With the backhand, discs spin automatically. That's why if you never played disc golf in your life and you go buy a disc or buy a Frisbee from a store and you do this, it flies, right? That's Frisbee. That's because when you do this, the Frisbee spins. Sidearm requires intentional and deliberate putting spin on the disc. That's why it's typically a trickier throw to learn, because there's a skill involved in throwing the sidearm, the skill of spinning the disc. 2 ways you do that. First, by facing forward, generating that torque or increasing the torque in your core by facing forward. But number 2 is with your wrist. Take the disc, wrist back, all the way and all the way forward. When you release the disc, you're going to use your wrist to put as much spin on the disc as possible. The way you're going to get there, on the backswing, on the second step of the backswing, the weight of the disc is going to pull your wrist cocked into place. So you got a firm grip on the disc, your wrist is loose. If you had a pendulum backswing on the second step, the way the disc is going to go 1, 2, wrist cocked. If you do a windmill backswing, disc starts turned towards you, 1, 2. In both cases, on the second step, that wrist is cocked. Then when you throw, regardless, you're in this position right here, lower half of the body forward, upper half of the body rotated, tension in your core, right? That's what we talked about on step 1. Arm back, wrist cocked, planned, and then pump that wrist. That's my way of trying to sound angry and aggressive. Your walk up, your backswing, and your throw are relaxed. The effort happens right there, but just pump that wrist. You cannot put too much wrist on it. More spin, better than less spin. Little caveat, there are some trick shots that require you to intentionally put less spin on the disc, but 99% of the time, more spin is better. So those are the 3 things. When I get players doing those in my private lessons, they will see the most radical improvements. Now, one little bonus, is the one thing that you don't do. You don't keep your elbow close to your body. This has been going around for, I don't know, sport's been around 43 years, let's say 42 and a half years. You do not generate power with this motion right here. All right, when you do that, you look like a Tyrannosaurus Rex trying to play disc golf. I've heard, I wasn't there, but I heard of all the dinosaurs, the T-Rex was the worst sidearm of all of them. Even the ones that walked on all fours had a better sidearm than T-Rex, because T-Rex kept his or her elbow next to the body. On your backswing, get the disc back out here. When you throw, your arm is going to be out here in front of you, right? So that whole this way, it's just a shortcut to generating spin in the disc. You don't need to do that. When you face forward and you cock your wrist, you have the rest of the mechanics right, you'll generate plenty of spin, I promise. So those are the tricks to throwing sidearm. Real quick, click down below. You can join my Patreon, become a patron. You get free content. We'll talk about mental games, strategy, live Q&As, all sorts of cool stuff. You even get a copy of my book based on the level. Click below, read all about it. Thanks, guys.